Baba oh, hear my
Thank you for coming. Very happy to be here with you today. My name is Sergi Sagas. I'm the Chief Innovation Officer of Hyperreal, and I help create digital humans like Alta B here. She's a fully synthetic human, and we created her, we protect her identity, and then we make her work. So you'll see the kind of things that she does. So anyway, I'm going to talk to you today about information, trust, and identity in line with this event. So let's have a lot to cover. So let's start with information. So millions of years before humans were here on Earth, the only information that was there was basically nature, pure information, right? We appeared, and very quickly we started generating information. We started observing, and that became science. We started making things up, and that was fiction. And then we started capturing, writing, drawings, and later on with technology, photograph, videos, and stuff like that. So the amount of information started growing. With the machines, when the computers arrived, we worked together with machines. So basically, we generate some content, and machines help us process it. I come from the visual effects background, so we've image processing, social media, and modern science, which is mostly people and computers. But now we are, the paradigms has changed. So now we are in the era of generative AI. So now machines generate AI, and we're in the era of infinite information. And information and even intelligence, I think very soon will be a utility. Same way that we have power or water. So the idea is that you connect, you get your intelligence for whatever it is that you're doing, and then you move on. But the amount of information keeps multiplying. I mean, this changes everything. This also implies that the amount of information that is out there is exponentially or doubly exponentially growing. And that means that it's harder and harder to know what's real and what's not, what's fake. So that brings a lot of challenges. So as we said, we are in a decade of generative AI, right? So we have, GANs and autoencoders and diffusion models and nerves and all these algorithms that generate content. And we know that with a simple prompt, we can generate pretty much any text, any image, and any videos. But this is just the beginning, right? So as you know, generative AIs can also generate 3D models, design, code, source code, and even chemical and biological structures like new medicines or protein arrangements. And also they can generate digital humans. And when they can generate digital humans, well, we'll talk about digital humans, right? But what I wanted to do is basically put you in context, right? Because a lot of people think that for most people, I would say, their first interaction with AI was ChatGPT, right? So a lot of people still think that AI was created 2 years ago, right? And it's important to look back and understand that obviously AI is part of deep learning, right? So more than a decade ago, convolutional neural networks came back. They were first introduced many decades ago, but they came back, and that's part of a trend that's been evolving. At the same time, deep learning is part of machine learning, right? So machine learning, the algorithms were developed many years ago, and all the supervised and supervised reinforcement learning, all that was the algorithms themselves come from very far away, from a long time ago. But what changed in the 2000s was basically that we had a lot more access to data, and especially data, but we also had a lot of more computing power. And that in itself is part of what generally called artificial intelligence, right? And that's something that started in the 50s, in late 40s, and was popularized in the 80s with artificial neural nets and expert systems. I don't know if some of you remember that, but but that was basically it. So this is basically a context I wanted to add to this. Now we can generate anything, right? So it used to be, I'm in computer graphics for many years. It used to be fur was very hard to do. Now we can create fur. Now we can create the animals that wear the fur, the landscapes, pretty much anything we can think of, complex visual effects. These can all be created with a prompt, right? And along that, not just these amazing imagery, but we can also create people, right? And when we create people, synthetic people, we can realize that maybe identity is just a kind of a data type, right? In a way. So we have identity that people could generate identity. So that makes our identity even more important. So you know about deep fakes, right? So very soon there's going to be a lot more deep fakes than actual organic humans. So there's definitely a need there to do something about it, right? So we have all these issues with deepfake. What we really need in this digital world is digital trust, right? And I'm addressing the right audience here because, as you know, digital trust is blockchain. Digital trust is, the decentralized ledger technology, and that helps us put a layer on the identity. You'll see a little bit more. But what we really need is basically a combination of blockchain technology, identity, digital identity, and AI, right? AI to generate generative AI in the sense. So meet Hyperreal. Hyperreal, we empower ownership, control, protection, and monetization of digital DNA in virtual ecosystem. That's a mouthful, right? That's crazy. You'll see some images, so hopefully you'll make a little bit more sense. And I'm showing this because this is the company I work for, but there's plenty of other companies out there that are doing similar work. So the company was started by Remington Scott. He's a pioneer in the field of performance capture. He has supervised many video games and feature films. He won an Academy Award for his work on supervising the Lord of the Rings. And I came to the equation. I joined him 4 years ago. I was at Disney working on visual effects, and especially in digital humans, back 25 years ago. And I had the chance to also work on some of the Spider-Man trilogies and the Matrix and stuff like that. So we come from this side of the business, right? So everybody at Hyperreal, we either come from the visual effects world or we come from the lawyers in intellectual property and image rights and this kind of profile, right? So we basically combine both in this. And basically what we do is we generate these digital humans. We create these digital humans with the best reference we have. If people are alive, we create them from scans. If they're not alive, we use whatever we can get our hands on, any kind of reference. We create them, we extract what we call our digital DNA. So a little bit more about that. And then we put them to work. So then the asset is not ours. The asset belongs to them. So the IP is not transferred to us. What we do is we put them to work. So either a movie with James Dean or a concert with Paul McCartney, Notorious B.I.G. We work with a lot of celebrities. Most of them I cannot really show yet. These are the ones that gave us permission. But we are not only work with celebrities, we also work with companies to create their ambassador. And we work with also private individuals and many more. And what we have created this thing called the Hyperbolt, right? So this is a platform And what we do in the Hyperbolt is we protect the digital DNA. So what's a digital DNA? It's basically their likeness at the highest possible quality, their voice, their performance or motion, their micro expressions that make them unique, that make each of us unique, and also the logic or knowledge to be used for LLMs if they want that. So what we do with that is basically we are able then to create the optimal training set to feed a neural net, right? So these images, every one of these pixels that we use is protected, authenticated by the layer of blockchain. And basically what we can do now with generative AI is basically we can do anything they want to do, right? So anything that they have full governance, so they can do whatever they want. So things like performances like this, they can do a chat in an immersive experience, they can do a Zoom call, or they can even do a concert.
You gotta jump, jump, jump. Jump, jump, jump.
So this is
Oh,
Alta B.
jump, jump, jump. Yeah, everybody knows you got.
This is Alta B. This is another of our clients, or his state, I should say. He's our client. This is a rapper, Notorious B.I.G. He was killed in the 90s. And we've been working with his family and his state to create the digital human that you see there, and then create all kinds of activation, immersive experiences, concerts, metaverse worlds, and anything that we can bring to the table and that they want to do, we do. And then they are guaranteed that every time that this digital human appears is 100% authentic, and it's 100% guaranteed. And they hold the keys for their identity. It's another one, Mike Tyson. We did recently. So we turned Mike Tyson from digital human into a licensable digital human, right? So he can still do fights like the one he did recently, or he can work with his digital double, and then we can work with him and create whatever content he approves. And then our business model, we get a percentage of the work that he does, but most of the money goes to the IPO holder. And so that's you'll see here an example of what it is to take a person and turn it into a licensable asset. So before I finish, the last thing I wanted to tell you was basically give you some advice on how to thrive in this new reality, right? So we have a lot of information that we don't know what's real and what's not. We have all these technologies that keep appearing, and sometimes it's hard to keep on top of it. And so I just wanted some thoughts on what I think that it's good practice, right? So first one is learn the tools, right? So understand the limitations, understand what you can and cannot do, and more importantly than understanding it and learning it is applying it, right? So apply it to your personal life, apply it to your professional life, and be up to date with all this. Because in a way, I think that all these tools that AI and blockchain offer, the way I see them is more like these bubbles, right? So they're there are skills there ready for you to grasp, right? So it's, in a way, it's like, okay, like in the Matrix, right? So there's Neo says, I want to learn Kung Fu, right? So you plug that in and then you know Kung Fu, right? So in this case with LLMs, it's hard to learn Kung Fu, but you can learn about many, many different things just by, learning them and applying them directly to what you do, right? So that's the first thing I would say. Second thing is obviously protect your digital identity, right? So there's all these data out there, and the more data it's out there, the more important it is to protect your own, right? So it's I show you some examples of people that their whole life they make money with their image, right? Or most of them do. Most of us are not in that category, but it's still very important for us to protect our identity. We don't want, in a world where everything changes so quick, we want to make sure that that our identity is protected, and then whatever use we do is our own and that doesn't depend on third parties. Third one is more like, analytical and critical, develop critical thinking. So this is really important to empower yourself and to understand, again, the limits of what's possible and what's not possible. And then also to have the criteria to understand and basically discern. And because we live in this digital world, right? So everything is digital. We have digital information, digital trust, digital identity. So the last thing I wanted to tell you was basically to prioritize human connection, right? So spend more time with organic people in nature, right? And I just realized that it's kind of ironic because this whole picture is completely generated by AI, both the nature and the people. But still, you know what I mean, right? So it's important to have this connection with digital humans and with organic humans. That was pretty much what I wanted to tell you today. So thank you very much for your attention and looking forward to a conversation.
Okay, I think I'm taking over. So thank you. It was very interesting. I'll get right back to that. First of all, welcome to the panel called Blockchain and Intellectual Property Management, Protecting the Creations and Digital Experiences of Content Creators. So Sergi also already mentioned a lot of aspects that kind of get into intellectual property. But first, let's introduce ourselves. So I'm Nathalie Beuke. I'm Director of Government Affairs and Public Policy with Polkadot. So I'm advocating for Web3 technologies, privacy and decentralization, and basically a decentralized internet. And in that capacity, I'm interacting a lot with regulators. And one aspect of regulation is intellectual property. So that kind of blends in here perfectly. I will make a mixture of, I will introduce everybody or try to, and then whoever feels like I missed out something very important, just add it. So Sergi, I don't know if you need more introduction after this, but yeah, you're a pioneering figure in the world of computer graphics, as we've just seen, and visual effects. So you had key technical roles at Walt Disney Animation and Sony Pictures ImageWorks. You contributed to several Academy Award-winning visual effects teams. And right now, you're a Chief Innovation Officer of Hyperreal, what we just saw. And you focus on digital twins and Web3 initiatives. Is that a good? Okay, good. Good, I hope. Then we have Jesus Perez. He's the founder and CEO of Crypto Plaza, one of the most influential hubs for cryptocurrency and DeFi community in Spain. He is also the director of investments at Robble VC, hedge fund, and an ambassador for MakerDAO. So additionally, he's also a leading member of different associations, the Spanish FinTech Association, Metacartel, and he believes in the transformation and transformative potential of crypto infrastructure in the future economy. And last but not least, Tony Mateos, another Academy Oscar Award winner on this table. Never thought I sit with 2 Oscar winners in one table. Screams for a selfie, but whatever. Tony Mateus was recently awarded an Oscar for scientific and technical achievements by the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Science as a co-creator of Dolby Atmos, a technology that has reached approximately 1 billion users in over 90 countries. He is a CTO and co-founder of Laos Network, a layer 1 blockchain that scales Ethereum and Bitcoin. Yeah, stop here.
Perfect.
So now we know who's sitting here. Maybe let me just get right back into it. Let me start maybe with a general question in the round to all of you and see maybe if that continues. So blockchain is then generally described as a game changer for intellectual property. In your guys' opinion, and I feel free, whoever feels like they want to talk first, what is the most transformative aspect for content creators and IP protection, if you had to name like the one strongest in your opinion? Maybe start. Oh, maybe.
I talked already.
Okay, so to me, the biggest power that that blockchain has for IP is making sure that IP stands for what it is supposed to be. So IP, intellectual property, it's property. Oops, I speak farther. It's property about something that's intellectual. It's something that humanity is not used to until very recently. It's been just over the last 200-300 years that we actually can impose boundaries on using my ideas, using my song, using my image. This wasn't even feasible before and not even thinkable, right? I would hear a song from a troubadour and I would sing it. And I wouldn't even think that not doing that is something bad. Anyway, IP is something that we, humanity, gave up part of our freedom to do that voluntarily because we thought that this was better for everyone, right? That by actually preventing me from singing the song the way I want, it's actually better for everyone, okay? Or from making this chair the same way you are making the chair, or in terms of patterns, right? So we gave up this freedom. The way this freedom is being used these days, in my opinion, I have quite an extensive experience, at least from the point of view of patents. So IP, protection on things that giving monopoly to an organization, a person to actually do something, and no one else can for a limited amount of time. The way it's being used these days, in my opinion, almost every sort of IP is completely corrupted and completely against the initial principles of maybe this is better for everyone. So I think I'm not against IP completely, at least. I'm completely against the way IP is being used these days. And I think the transparency that blockchain can provide is the key there. So being able to do it in a way that is transparent, that it really serves the generators of those IPs as opposed to everyone else in there and all those sort of things. We can get into it later if you want. That's the biggest power it has. So that's my point of view.
Okay, very interesting. In my point of view, we have to identify what is the value proposal of this innovation. And I think sometimes we talk a lot about technology, blockchain, but I think we have to talk also about what is crypto, that is, it implies more about really property. I think we need to create or to have an economy that can really grow. We need to think about private property, because that's really important. It's what protects this kind of is a kind of private property. And I think we can really develop with crypto that is not only related to tech, is digital property, private property. That is really an amazing thing, because sometimes we think that if we use blockchain, we are going to create digital private property, but sometimes it's not the same. We have to be in a credible, in a neutral platform that can really, they have the promise that this is really neutral, and we have defined in that kind of factors the property. So I think that that's the first point. We need to create digital private property, and we need more than protect. We have to try to understand what is the best way to share, or what is the best way to promote the things that we create, and we need to be involved. So because we're in an environment where we have been also found a lot of business model with open source. So we are talking about digital intellectual property, and when sometimes we talk about crypto, all is open source. You can copy every protocol, you can copy a lot of things. And I think that's also open us that we can really also work in a environment without this kind of data. But the other thing for me is important is low the transaction cost. So sometimes one of the things that I think crypto is amazing, doing amazing things is to lower the transaction cost. And in this kind of property, I think one of the things that we can really be very, very efficient is the agreements to use our IP. So sometimes we can define in contracts that are very, very efficient that people can use your property using this kind of agreements. One of the most successful IPs that we can see last time has been this kind of collection NFTs, like bribes. That is an example of how you can use IP, or people can leverage on the IP of this collection, and that's what you understand that's why it's so important there be 10,000 NFTs, because a lot of people is working in this kind of IP. They are really doing jobs with this IP, and they are returning to the creators. So that's why I think also defining how can you use your IP, or how you can really do this kind of agreements that are very, very costly and low this transaction, I think is one of for me, the other big advantage of this innovation.
You don't have to.
I can add something.
Go ahead. Sorry, you don't have one actually.
Yeah, thanks. So first of all, I think it's important to distinguish between IP and image rights, right? There's all these things behind, and I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to pretend to be one. That's why we have a team of lawyers in our team that deal with that. But there's a lot of really important aspects that even for everyday people, we never think about. And there's a use case, for instance, that we recently encountered, which is, and it's very relevant to this. It's for creators. So a photographer took a picture of a famous person that I cannot tell you yet. Took this picture, very iconic picture of this person in a very special moment in his life. And this person has been basically, in a way, he wants to use this picture in, let's say, T-shirts or whatever, right? It's himself. The picture, the photograph is only him, right? And he realized he cannot use this picture because this picture is not his. This picture is the photographer's. The photographer took it, and it's his likeness and everything. There's some kind of arrangement, but he cannot do this. And this is very similar to most people that do deep fakes, right? So you see a deep fake of, I think I showed the Tom Cruise one, right? So people do unauthorized deep fakes of people. They're obviously unauthorized, but say that Tom Cruise wants to do a deep fake of himself by training a diffusion model from his movies. He cannot do that either because the movies are not his. The movies are Universal, or they're whoever they paid for it. They paid him money to be an actor, but he doesn't have the rights on that. So it gets a lot more confusing, right? So there's all these like intricacies. So by creating a digital human, then we can regenerate that moment in time, and then we can generate a moment from a different point of view where the photographer, the photographer doesn't have any rights, and he still keeps that moment, right? So we brought his moment back. We gave him back the moment in time to this person by just creating a photorealistic digital human, moving the camera slightly. That's a completely different piece of art.
Questions just to understand. I mean, like in a situation with Tom Cruise, for example, he sold his rights to the motion picture, whoever produced it, right? If someone's on the street being photographed, you don't sell. I mean, you never gave away or sold your rights. So that would be a different situation. That actually, unless you're a person of public interest, you can discuss. So that's one part. But what I found interesting in this, usually when you think of intellectual property, you think of creators first, right? And you brought in this whole aspect of identity, which I think is interesting because of the fact that you can have digital twins in that sense. And how would you say, does it protect your intellectual property as, I don't know, your personality maybe, or is that, would you say that is part of it because you have a specific definition of what intellectual prop, or you're particular about it? Is the personality, the way you're thinking, the way you're looking, is everything your own intellectual property, part of who you are? This is the first question for you. And then the other question for you after that would be, how would you say putting that on blockchain and creating a twin is protecting you and your, let's say, identity in that sense?
Can I answer the second one first?
Yeah.
Because that was what you can consider as property or not. That's a super complicated problem that's right now being redefined, and I would like to get there with AI. But what you can do with wherever you accept as a definition, that's where blockchain comes in. I think, for example, in the case of this actor, I'm pretty sure that even if this actor was willing to pay for it, it would have been really hard for him to understand who to pay for. How do I contact this person? How do I actually make it happen? If I want to create a similar way, if I want to create the competitor of Spotify, and because I think I have a brilliant idea, the creators will earn better money, and the UI is going to be better, it's almost impossible. I need a huge department of market relations, and it's really complicated to negotiate all these things per region. It's a nightmare. So I think getting clarity on, if I want to use IP, what do I need to do? Okay, if everything is written there, I know how much it costs. Anyone can do it. I just click, I pay, and I'm using it. And I'm building an app, and I'm building another moment for this actor or whatever. That's something that really has to change, and that it should come.
Yeah, so in terms of protecting, the idea is if if the identity of the person is protected by this blockchain layer, right? So there's this authenticity or way to prove that this is the right asset, right? The same way that you prove any other ownership in terms of using a blockchain. Right. So if you can prove, basically, if you have the keys, right? If you can prove that you're the owner, then the problem goes away. Because I mean, there's a lot of complications that, say in the example I gave before, say that the photographer is dead, right? So who has the rights? Is it the family of the photographers that have the right of a photo that he took? It gets very, very complicated very quickly. But if his identity is stored in a way that he controls it, then the other issue is, okay, if these images are outside there's technology, there's very good technology, actually better than I thought, that can track pretty much every piece of imagery online very, very quickly, and can decide if you have a good way to check, right? Currently, there's no really good way to check. The only way to check is like, okay, you talk to the agent talks to somebody else. But if there was a hash or something quick, a function you can execute and know exactly who the owner is, what's the permission of this, then the problem is solved. It's just a matter of scaling this infrastructure to, in a way, you police the internet if you want to, or just leave it and say, okay, you basically just can do whatever you want with it, right? Which is what most people would do.
The question, I mean, it happened with blockchain before, people lose their keys. What happens with the rights if, let's say, someone loses their key or the person dies, and with the person, the access, then who has, I mean, that's probably not a question we can answer here, but there's some things still like up in the air. Yeah, I wanted to add that, but so generally speaking, in terms of revenue for creators, right? So let's say you have your own keys and you have your proper intellectual property on a blockchain, maybe duplicated with AI. How would a fair distribution of revenue look like in the technology from your point of view, Jesus?
I think with this is one of the most important problems, no? To have, and I think this year we have like a renaissance of culture in general with crypto. I think there are a lot of people right now who's creating content, is creating art, is creating a lot of things, and really we have becoming to see some kind of revenue from these kind of markets. So first of all, you need to have property in order to to can generate revenue with this property. So that's the important thing. You have to have also agreements that all can use to use your property in order to can you have revenue from that. But one of the most amazing thing is crypto makes global markets. That I think is important because sometimes when we talk about IP, we see a lot of fragmented markets, and that's also doesn't really helps a lot in order to generate revenue. So that's why I think also generating global markets of IP, it's really an important, because in that moment we can specialize, we can to create more specific things. We can, if you have success, you can have a lot of people who can access to your IP, and also you have a way to be very efficient to do agreements, and you don't have to have this. When if you write a song and you put in a concrete kind of agreement that is well established over the world, probably there are a lot of platforms that can use it very efficient, and that is very good because this is competition, and it's good for creators, because right now we are in a monopolies that really makes they have a huge control of each market, and that is really unfair. So I think that we have to create this kind of I would like that Netflix will be in the future a protocol that can really, this kind of intermediates, we can really disintermediate this kind of platform in order to give back some kind of decisions or power to the creators, and in this kind of global markets and neutral markets. So that, and I think this is a very important moment in order to create this kind of renaissance of art, because people really likes art. And we talk about IP property, but sometimes we talk about culture property. Sometimes we talk about meme coins or something like that. In some way, we are creating some kind of meme culture capital in some way that can really be. So I think it's going to have a lot of experiments from the next years, because we are creating this kind of capital that I think is going to be important for the next years.
I have one follow-up question. Okay, let's say I have using a blockchain, I have my keys, I have all this. How am I still protected from all the deepfakes? I mean, it doesn't stop someone from recreating the content. There's like no, way to stop that. I mean, I can maybe prove I'm the originator of it, right? Okay, fair enough. But still, we're gonna have confusing copycats. Do you think there is a solution, or is that still a hurdle? Or
There's two things here. One is that, being the originator this is why we talk about authenticated digital human, right? So there's many, and I hate to do the example, but the Mona Lisa, right? So there's like the Mona Lisa, there's one, but you can make a copy, you can take a picture, high resolution picture, better quality than the original even. But then it doesn't have the same value, right? So that's one thing. For people, they like authenticity, right? So you would like to, if there's a marketplace and you want to buy the likeness of Mike Tyson, right? For whatever reason. You want the authentic one, right? You don't want the one that, or at least the authentic one has more value than the other one. It's, could be divided, but that's one thing. So the originator. The other thing is if you have a way to tell very quickly from an image or a video if that's authentic or not, you can enforce that, right? So there's ways in platforms, YouTube, TikTok, whatever. There's many ways that they provide tools to verify the content, and then flag it if it's not authentic, or even remove it, or at least have a protocol, right? So it's not just a Wild West anymore. You have a way, if you want to do nothing, you can, but if you want to say, okay, this is not what I said, I don't want to see a video of myself endorsing Trump or whatever, you don't need to, right? So you can be taken out. And the process, the reason why this hasn't happened is, one of the reasons why is that until recently it was really hard to enforce, or it was really hard to decide, if you were the right owner or not. But if you just have the keys and it's just a simple query, that simplifies things a lot.
Yeah, I would like to get to your very last point about whether it's feasible or not to enforce it, because that's at the root of the origins of IP. So if you think about it, when you teach at university, your students are free to repeat what you said to anyone. I'm free to dream of whatever actress I want, okay? And no one can know I'm doing that. No one can prevent me from doing that. And that's why there's no police coming to my home when that happens, okay? So the enforceability of things is key. And that's why we forbid some things, but not some others. Now, I think blockchain can facilitate understanding what is authentic or not, so that if you want to behave legally, you know what. But I think it's now going back to AI and what can be property and what not. What will happen the day that, so right now to do this Mike Tyson super magnificent video took hours, professionals and all that stuff, right? What happens when it's my phone where I can say locally, not even through a server, hey, make a video of Mike Tyson doing whatever, and it's running here, nobody even knows. That cannot be enforced against me. I mean, I just like it's like my thought, you know? So I think that even these things are going to be completely redefined.
If you keep it on your phone,
It's
you can
okay.
do anything you want. But if you want to send it out there and have many people look at it and comment and be a YouTuber, you know, increase your visits because of that video, then that's where the problem starts. But yeah, I see
Yeah, when
what
you
you're
make money
saying.
out of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's all a matter of what you do with this, right?
Me, can also ask
Yes.
Mathieu, you're building Laos. Laos network is basically a blockchain that is focusing on scaling Ethereum and Bitcoin, right? How does your layer 1 solution address blockchain scalability issues for high frequency microtransactions? So, for example, those needed for streaming royalties or licensing and stuff like that.
This is a bit like selling my book. I apologize. Yeah, so I'm one of the founders of a new layer 1, sorry, called Laos Network, which is, the goal is to scale, Ethereum, Bitcoin, all those networks, so that you can do millions of transactions there without going to layer 2s, which are very insecure. The thing is, you'll be able to, for example, put the entire catalog of Universal Music, or every tiny little piece, everything you want to tokenize, and make money out of that, or because it's important for transparency for whatever you do, instead of having to go to an isolated silo that nobody uses, being able to do it wherever liquidity sits, right? So in Bitcoin, Ethereum mostly, right? So these days, if you want to do it in those two networks, you just, with 10 seconds, 10 transactions per second, you're not going to be able to do that, even at 100. So our goal is to be able to allow these networks, the big ones, to actually scale without having to go to layer 2s and all the problems associated with that. Sorry about selling my book. Laos is cool.
Do you see a problem? I mean, with IP rights or like intellectual property or monetizing that, do you see some sort of that gatekeeping of maybe important knowledge would be increased by that technology?
So I think it's, there are two problems to using the blockchain at large scale for the problems we're trying to solve with IP. One of them has nothing to do with the blockchain. It has to do with legal aspects around the world and being able to tokenize things that then have an effect on the real world. And that has nothing to do with the blockchain. The other one is having something that scales and that at the same time is a public infrastructure, as you were saying before, neutral, right? As opposed to going to Solana or to a place which is controlled by just a few. If you are a government, and it's already a pain to think about these things, if you are thinking of actually making it on IBM's network, it's even worse, no? So yeah, I think our goal is to extend the public neutral infrastructure that everybody wants to use, so that governments even think about these things. So yeah, I hope that we put our tiny grain of salt there.
Talking about scalability, right? We're in a global world, internet is everywhere. So when you're creating a platform or digital versions, like this, it's out there. do you see challenges with different, how do you say, regions, jurisdictions, or situations of people handling intellectual property? If yes, do you have examples or situations you're facing? Anybody who feels like they have something to say?
I think one of the interesting things about crypto is that sometimes you can consider like a new jurisdiction. There are some kind of projects like Kleros that you can really use to resolve some kind of disputes. So really, if we want to globalize all these kind of markets, we need to use this kind of jurisdiction. And yes, probably in your country you need to adapt or to understand how, but sometimes you can solve the things in a digital way because sometimes it's even easier. You can enforce things. If you go to Kleros, it's more easy because you can put your property in this kind of disputes, and after the trial, you can really resolve and enforce instantaneously. So I think that that's really important to understand that we can use other kind of jurisdiction, and this kind of digital jurisdiction can also help with these kind of things.
Do you feel like journalism is a field that could benefit from these technologies nowadays with all the fake news?
For sure, yeah. I mean, having a way to establish let's say the relevance or who, I mean, it's very important who the source of the information is, right? It's very different that if the information comes from nature, say a law of physics, that has a lot more value than YouTuber that has 10 views, right? So there's levels of different credibility, and that's something that needs to be, I mean, this is one of the few tools we have to discern or weight the importance of some of these news that are out there, and having a way, ideally the centralized way to manage that. I think that's the only way forward in getting a little bit of an understanding of what's important, what's true, what's fake, and I think that blockchain plays a crucial role there.
Okay. So, I mean, in Web2, we saw that a lot of companies made a living from our personal data, right? Is there a possibility where right now, I mean, we have a lot of like data out there, or social graph, pictures, maybe even comments on social media, all these kind of things. That's also part of our identity, right? Before you mentioned we have like, how did you call it? A digital DNA. Thank you. So let's say the digital DNA of us, there is some sort of shadow of us existing in the internet that is kind of resembling who we are, our political opinions, our pictures, or everything. Could you see in a way that some companies could like do some piracy? I mean, people like use these platforms, they are out there. It's not like somebody like is forcing them, but let's say the data is out there, you have a social graph, you're living already more than 20 years, you were there in the early internet, so you did everything before you thought of privacy. So now, is there a danger of maybe malicious or not even malicious, just companies seeing a revenue opportunity, right? Using that, creating like fake accounts, basically fake digital versions of you, and how would you recommend for people to protect?
I like to when we call about Web3, sometimes we call it the ownership economy. I think that's really a very profound thing, because really when we talk about social network right now, I am using a lot crypto social networks, and this kind of social network, you in some way, this kind of projects deliver or give to you some kind of share of this kind of project. And you in DeFi is the same. When you use DeFi sometimes in the first steps, even we're using this kind of platform, give you some kind of share of this project. So I think we are going to enter in a economy or in a project where the companies are going to be forced to give you some share, because you are creating out of value, and this value in this kind of content, private content, is your ownership, because in this kind of social graph, this kind of things are yours. So that's why I think we are trying to enter in a environment with there are so much competition, and in the future, if you can select social network that give you is, okay, it's free, but I think owner is better than free. So if you can have some share of this crypto social network, give you this kind of share, it will be your own property, and probably you will take care more deeply of the social network than the other ones. So I think this kind of ownership economy, we are entering in that, and probably when we use products, we will consider that.
I must say I'm super pessimistic about these things, like extremely pessimistic. While we speak about these new changes, we all have our emails. At least I do have my emails at Google, who knows absolutely everything. So the difference between before and now is that Google could use that to target perhaps advertising to me. Now Google understands me through AI probably much better than anyone that I know, because he knows all my history. He knows I can wake up and he can tell me, oh, today you're feeling bad because yesterday, you know, I saw what happened. It's not just my public DNA, digital DNA, it's my private one. So Google has that. And it's not just that Google may behave maliciously, it's that sometimes companies get hacked, and that happens quite a lot. And even unintentionally. There was this famous guy in Germany that requested all his information from Amazon Alexa back using the European rights he has, and he received someone else's from the town, actually. So hours of Alexa recording his family, his lover, by the way, and all that stuff. So he made it public to denounce that. Right? So even if Google was okay and you know, behaving properly, they will be hacked, because now my data at Google has a lot of value to all these AI automatic things that at scale can understand you. I'm extremely pessimistic, and I don't think Web3 has anything to do with that. It can help a tiny bit here and there, but the problem is this size, while what we can do is this small.
No, I agree. And I think that what AI will allow us to do, or it already is doing, is basically aggregate all this, right? Because before, you know, Amazon knew something of what you buy, but then, you know, somebody else knew something else. And it was kind of all over the place, but nobody had really control. Nowadays, especially with agentic workflows and stuff like that, that you can have little agents crawling around and gathering information and putting it all together and correlating sources. That's really, really scary. So the only thing I would say, and I'm also pessimistic on that, I would say to be more careful. You know, it's right, which is very easy to say, like, oh yeah, sure. But we all want the convenience, right? So yeah, don't use Google Maps, right? Oh yeah, sure. But we're gonna take the map again and then drive. I mean, there's some alternatives to have more privacy. There's alternative to Google. There's different things. They're still kind of convoluted and hard to use, but hopefully there's going to be better ways to do it, and people will be at least more conscious of this, right? So at least if you do something, you know, if you want to post all your photograph of your family on Facebook, like people used to do, that's fine, but you know, at least you know that they're public, right? So that you're not under the impression that you just only your friends will look at it, right? So education is important.
Well, let me be the optimistic side of this kind of panel. So, and we can really check it. Reality will tell us, well, will finally I think in 5 years we will have these new companies, these crypto social networks or crypto projects. They are going to erase a lot of, or to be in a better position than traditional networks. And I think it's because crypto is an amazing, powerful of coordination. And that's really, really, really amazing. I think in the next 5 years, we are going to see a new change in the new tech. So the Google, Amazon, Netflix, and Facebook. I think in the 5-10 years, we're going to see a different kind of company that will be crypto. If we are in the optimistic scenario. If we are in the pessimistic, we will see the same companies driving all. But I think we are having some data that these things are changing, and that's why we are going to coordinate with economic incentives to do this kind of change, because until this moment, we don't have any kind of motivation to go from Facebook to other network. But I think that moment we are going to have this motivation is going to be money and property. And that's why I think I'm very, very optimistic that it probably is not going to suck. They are not so, in my opinion, there are no probability that this kind of old traditional social network can really maintain their share.
This is the pitch that brought me into crypto. I'm still in crypto because of this. I really hope you're right.
Right now we have Bitcoin at 100K, and we have a lot of people with cryptocurrencies. Right now, the last presidential election in the United States have some influence in crypto. I think something are moving. Right now, we are in a moment where crypto companies are going to have probably the best 4 years in the United States. And I think adoption is coming. So you see Telegram, you see a lot of things. So I think very, very optimistic. And if you see the data from these kind of theories or this kind of intellectual ideas to what right now is, I think we are in an exponential adoption.
Yeah, as a lobbyist in the US and in Europe, I mean, the majority it is a positive sign in the US in terms of crypto, that there's a pro-crypto government right now, but they don't, or they have thin majorities in the House. So what kind of legislation they can get through is a question mark. And another aspect not to forget with blockchain, it is end-to-end traceable. So privacy is a topic. And without privacy preserving tool, it could be a surveillance technology too, just to keep that in mind. So I think more than ever, advocacy for privacy preserving tools in that new space is very important. Any questions from your side? That's the moment. Nobody.
No questions, then we reach the time. Thank you very much for the panel. Really amazing, and it's an honor for Democracy for All. These people here has been a real very good fun. Thank you.